So guess what I've been driving? I've been driving the hatch because my Suburban quit on me yesterday. And long story short, I was trying to jump start my dad's truck, and it's a 12 valve 5.9 Cummins, and had it on the jumper cables. It was super dead for like 15 minutes. I went to go crank it and it wouldn't start. So then I went back into my truck and went to hit the gas and it goes and like starts coughing and sputtering. I'm like, what the heck? So like 6 minutes later, I just sit there in my truck waiting, and I go to try to start the truck again, and when I did, I came back, my truck was dead, and now I don't have a fuel pump. So the tricky thing is about these like 2000 to 2006 Suburbans and Yukons is you have two ways of doing it. Traditional way is to drop the tank, which the tank's right here, or you can make an access panel. So basically cutting out the sheet metal right here and then getting access to the fuel pump and all the connections and the fuel lines from like to the rail and all that and back to the tank. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm going to make a little video on that and then show you guys how easy and hard it is, because that's what I'm doing no matter what. I'm not dropping this tank by myself. Now that I got access to the actual bottom of the floor, because I cut the carpet out and the insulation, I marked kind of guesstimating where I was going to be able to cut to have my access panel. So I'm basically going to cut a square, and it's about, I guesstimate about a foot by a foot. And this is where, if we pulled this up and let's say this was already cut out, the fuel pump should be right about here, and then the gas lines and all the connections going to be on the fuel pump, but the gas lines are going to be right here, which is like the to the motor and then coming back as the return. So the tricky part is a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll drill like each corner and then use like an angle grinder to cut, but we're right on top of the gas tank, which is super sketchy to me. So I'm gonna try it with a hacksaw. So that's gonna be kind of tricky. So you basically only want to go about maybe like 3/4 of an inch down, because then you'll puncture the gas tank. So you just got to make sure that when you're drilling, you don't want to go too far down and then nick the gas tank. So that's the tricky part that I'm like not really nervous about, but I know that that's what I have to keep in mind. So we can all say that we're YouTube certified, right? I looked this up on YouTube, a couple different videos, and a lot of people are suggesting not to do this. For like really kind of dumb reasons, like, oh, well, when you cut this out, then you're gonna have rust issues and all that stuff. So I really just kind of gave this a chance because I'm right next to my shop, right? I'm about 20 feet, and I'd rather be working in there, and it's like 20 degrees out, and I'm by myself. I don't have I have a jack, but I want to have to roll it through all this doggone gravel and then do this in the gravel. So it's a lot easier, a lot less messy, no gas going down my iron pits. So here's kind of what I've been doing, just kind of, winging it. I used a pretty big drill bit. It's probably like a 1/2 inch, and I used a punch to start it. So I went and punched it. And then the one thing that I would note is when you're drilling these, drill them kind of slow, because it's super like thin metal. And I mean, I'm using Harbor Freight bits, and usually like those take forever to drill a hole, and these cut pretty fast. So just take your time with it. And it's about an inch and a half before you actually hit the gas tank. So you shouldn't have any problems like puncturing the gas tank. Just take your time, and then everything will all be good. So let's go and break out the hacksaw. Now I got access to my fuel pump, yay! But here's the thing, you never see this in the YouTube videos, is there's one thing that I'll show you guys real quick. Is I kind of just guessed on what measurements and all that stuff. There was people that actually like measured this out with like chalk line and crap like that, but I was like, I'm just gonna guess, right? So I guessed a little bit too high on the top, because there's like this piece of metal right here that connects this whole piece. So I should have cut it like about an inch or so closer to me right here. So now I just got this basically pulled all the way up. But I mean, that'll kind of work because all I'm gonna do is just replace this and then put it back down, even if I have to use like a, you know, a heat gun, possibly a torch, something like that. And then I can go and replace my fuel pump and my sending unit, all that stuff, and then we'll be good to go. So it was kind of tricky to get this fuel pump out, and it has like this crimp ring that goes over it, and you basically drop it in, and then you have to turn it a certain way and everything. And then also on the return line and the fuel supply line to the motor, they have these clips on them. They had to press in the insides for it to release, and then you basically press them in and then push these towards the front of the car, basically just push them out, and then you're pretty much good. And then you got also this one, this plug, really easy to get out. You basically just pull this tab up and it goes. Well, this one, if you look real closely, there's a black clip right here that you have to press down, and when you push that down, it releases this clip on the inside of here, and then you can pull that out. So right now I'm about to rewire this plug, because I guess back in the day, like, they recalled these plugs, and it looks like maybe somebody's already replaced this, but this is for the fuel gauge, so you can tell how much fuel you got. So I'm gonna go and rewire that, and I got my instructions, and then we'll go to the next step. Just got done wiring up my new plug that came with my kit. This one's for the fuel gauge, so my fuel gauge might work on my truck now. And it comes with instructions and, of course, like a wiring diagram, right? And so pretty self-explanatory, you know, black to black, gray to gray, purple to purple, orange to orange. And then right now I'm doing the opposite. I'm going to be putting everything back together now. So let's go and see how hard that is. Pretty self-explanatory. So this is your fuel pump, and then let me get a closer look. So here's your fuel pump, and then this is either your return line or your supply line, and vice versa. So you had to put these clips back on the fuel pump, and then there's this ring that goes on here, and then this one is a MU1618 fuel pump for a 2000 to 2006 Chevy Suburban. And I found out that this one doesn't use a pickup, it's a modular unit. So when you do a fuel pump and you're like, man, why didn't it come with the screen, and why won't my screen fit and all that stuff, because that's what I did. I called up AC Delco and they told me it's a modular unit, so you don't need an original screen for like your old fuel pump. So that's always good. So now I got all my wiring done, and then this is kind of tricky. You have to line up these. I wish I had a better lighting. So like these slots right here, there's 3 in each corner, and then you got to press the fuel pump down, and then take this ring and then line those up and then turn it. And then there's this little clip right here that basically you just gotta turn it just enough to get that little part right there. So let's go ahead and do that. So I got everything installed. I got my connections on. I have my fuel lines on, and this ring is kind of tricky to get on. So you have 4 slots, 1 in each corner, and you got to press it down, press the fuel pump down, and then you got to turn it clockwise. So in one of these slots, you just pick the easiest one to get to. You basically would take like a flathead screwdriver, put it up in there sideways, and then hit it with a hammer, and it'll turn this whole thing. You don't have to turn it too far, maybe like about 1 inch. And then there's this clip over here, and once it locks in, you're good. So let's see if my fuel pump works. If I can just find the key. Here we go. Ooh, it works. So not too bad. Could have been way worse. So yeah, that's basically it. All I'm gonna do is just get this and push it back down, put the carpet back in, and then now I can finally get back to the next time, you know, 100,000 miles, 200,000 miles from now, my fuel pump goes out, then I won't have to work so hard to get it out. So yeah, that's what's up.